John, Mary, it's a pleasure to meet you again. We are on this journey together, and I'm very pleased that we have developed over time a very good understanding about your current situation, your priorities, your objectives, and it's very good that we are now in a position that we could provide an overall financial plan that meets your objectives. The purpose of the financial plan is to provide a framework for helping you reach your objectives. The plan consists of a section for each of the following subject areas: your financial health, risk management, investment planning, retirement planning, tax planning, and estate planning. The plan concludes with an action plan to implement these major recommendations. At the outset, I also would like to congratulate Mary for your retirement last year. I'm sure you're looking forward to a very healthy and fulfilling retirement phase, and we are here to help both of you realize most or all of your objectives. The discussions we have had in the past have helped us prioritize your goals. We have outlined these here. Your first goal was to reduce any estate and gift tax liability and ensure all estate planning documents are in order. Your second was to review insurance contracts and discuss the implications of purchasing a long-term care policy. Third was to reduce your personal income taxes. Fourth is, based on your risk tolerance level, recommend a diversified portfolio that meets your investment needs and expectations. You're willing to take risks in the risk tolerance aspect. You're willing to invest in individual stocks as well as stock mutual funds. You would also like to have a diversified portfolio that meets return and tax objectives. The economic assumptions that we have agreed to use are that you will be in a 44% marginal tax bracket for combined federal and state taxes. You expect inflation to be at 2.25%, that the risk-free rate will be 1%, and the market risk premium will be 7%. Summary of financial health documents. We created a statement of financial position, ratio analysis, and a statement of cash flow. These are attached along with this plan. You have a strong financial position with a low level of liability and a large asset base. The only liabilities are the credit card balance and the mortgage on the vacation home. So your current ratio is a relatively high 40. And we typically have clients that is at about a little over 1. That's a sweet spot. So the large value in the CD provides very good liquidity, but it also has an opportunity cost because it could be invested at a higher return elsewhere in the market. Also, the CD will generate taxable ordinary income that is taxed at your 44% total marginal rate. We recommend that some of the CD assets are redirected to investments in growth investments that generate lower ordinary income and have a higher growth potential, and also will be taxed at lower capital gains tax rate, and that too only when the assets are sold. CD assets can be reduced to a level just enough to cover your immediate liquidity needs along with an emergency cash reserve. As investments are better managed for tax exposure, the current annual tax expense of $135,000 could be lowered, and this is covered in the investment planning section. Mary's pension payments that start in 2022 should also help reduce the need for investment income because that would also help cover your expenses. The credit card balance at $10,724, if it is at or near the 50% credit limit on the card or over the 50% credit limit, we would consider prepaying so you stay well below the 50% credit limit to maintain a high credit score. Additional recommendations. We recommend utilizing the installment sale proceeds to pay off the mortgage on the vacation home to save on the 5% interest expense. And this is mainly because the standard deduction that you most likely will take will not take advantage of the interest reduction, sorry. Um, and in terms of implementation, as these CDs mature, you could invest a portion of the funds in a diversified portfolio of growth stocks, mutual funds with an acceptable risk profile and that are diversified. And further details of this is included in the section on investment planning. Also, maturities on the CDs needs to be staggered to allow for the $40,000 car purchase and also any other emergency cash needs. So the CDs mature at the time that the cash needs become a time requirement. In terms of the investment planning, so the summary of your investment planning includes documents that we've prepared, an investment policy statement, and an analysis of your investment portfolio, and they are attached. Your objectives in investment planning are to create a diversified portfolio that is optimized for tax liabilities while accommodating your willingness to accept risk. Based on a full analysis of the current portfolio, we have the following observations. Your current investments in stocks and mutual funds comprise 82% of total investments, while bonds are 18%. This analysis includes the 401k and 403b investments and assumes all of Mary's 403b mutual fund assets are invested in bonds due to the proximity of 2025 in the 2025 fund. Even with your willingness to accept a high level of risk, it is best to reduce your stock and stock mutual funds to the 60 to 70% range. Also, Mary's 403b holding has a low beta at 0.75 and a return about 120 basis points lower than market. Based on your high willingness to take risk, alternative investments can be chosen from Mary's plan with a beta at or just above the market with returns matching the overall market or higher. The largest cash outflow currently is the $135,000 tax payment. Your current investment income of $235,000 is about 5% of the $4.7 million in total investments in stocks, bonds, and CDs. The high tax expense and the high yield on the investments indicate that investment income is predominantly taxed at the marginal income tax rate as opposed to a lower capital gains rate. Investment income generated as interest and non-qualified dividends are taxed at the ordinary income rates. And for you, the total marginal tax rate is 44%, relatively high for the ordinary income tax. So one of the goals in investment planning should be to keep taxable ordinary investment income at the required minimum levels to reduce the tax exposure from investment income. Based on your current earned as well as Social Security income, it is, however, necessary to maintain a level of investment income to fully cover all your expenses. So our recommendations to increase portfolio diversification, provide the necessary minimum investment income, and reduce tax exposure are the following. The first step is to develop a portfolio allocation strategy that distributes assets between equities, fixed income securities, and alternative investments along with cash in proportions consistent with your willingness to take risk. This is an important first step to minimize frequent trading that could potentially increase tax exposure. This strategic portfolio allocation can then be adjusted with minor tactical changes based on market conditions and your personal life events. The following specific tactics can be employed once a portfolio allocation is finalized. Invest a core portion of the stock portfolio in selective market index exchange traded funds that mirror the overall market. This will minimize portfolio turnover and eliminate diversifiable risk. Although index ETFs cover investments in all market sectors, it is possible to minimize or avoid tobacco stocks as you stated in your preference through good screening tools. Second, invest in tax-advantaged investments like tax-exempt municipal bonds in the fixed income portion of the portfolio. Third, shifting assets from predominantly income producing to a balance of income and growth-oriented investments Replace high dividend yielding stocks to a balance of modest dividend yielding and growth oriented stocks that still maintain diversification and provide risk optimization. Four, tax loss harvesting. For example, capital loss from liquidating position in stock A in your current stock portfolio can offset all of the capital gains from selling the remaining stocks if the decision is made to move from these individual stocks to a diversified portfolio of equity mutual funds or ETFs. If you prefer investing in individual stocks, a small part of the equity portfolio can be used to invest in carefully selected individual stocks based on their risk adjusted performance, preferably in multiple sectors of the market. It is best to maintain holdings for an extended period to minimize capital gain exposure. 6. Achieve targeted levels of investment growth with a combination of interest, dividends, and capital gain income. As the tax expense is reduced with these tax optimized investments above, the need for investment income can also be reduced because the tax expense is your single largest cash outflow. We will be happy with developing specific investment recommendations to implement these suggestions. Managing assets from the installment sale of the manufacturing company. Allocate payments from the down payment and installments from the sale of the manufacturing company in this year and the installments in the future 7 years to the various investments in the portfolio, the strategic portfolio, to maintain the allocations that have been developed. These specific allocations can then be adjusted based on market conditions at the time of investing within the tactical allocation range that we have also already developed. The summary of your risk management. I would first like to highlight that my firm will be compensated $1,333 from the insurance agent that recommended you to our firm. We will be recommending insurance product from this firm based on this agreement. Documents. We did a full analysis of all your insurance policies and developed a few scenarios for alternatives, and this is attached. We also have specific comments and recommendations on your current level of risk management. Insurance contract review was one of your high priority planning objectives during our goal setting discussions. Following are our observations. 1. Homeowners insurance coverage for your primary residence is 51% of the fair market value of the home. We recommend raising this to at least 80% of the fair market value of the home. And that means the coverage will have to be increased from $400,000 to $620,000. The deductible on the policy could, however, be lowered. The deductible could be raised from $500 to $1,000, and that would help lower the premium. So we just need to optimize the level of premium and coverage level in that homeowner's policy. Item number 2, personal belongings coverage is inadequate if the vintage stamp is located at your primary residence. Additional coverage will need to be purchased for the vintage stamp. The value of personal belongings now is $875,000 against a coverage amount of $200,000, which is basically 50% of the homeowners association coverage of $400,000. Umbrella policy coverage is inadequate at $1 million. We recommend raising umbrella coverage to at least $10 million and ideally $12.5 million. This is based on the exposed portion of the $14 million net worth after deducting the value of the 401k and life insurance assets. Life insurance coverage, however, is adequate due to the low level of liabilities that you both have. A long-term care insurance policy can be created. Your high level of assets, however, permit a relatively high elimination period of 12 months. This will help reduce the long-term care premium. A $120,000 liquid emergency fund can be set aside to pay for care if there is a need for triggering the long-term care policy for the elimination period. Summary of tax planning. Opportunity for tax planning is in improved investment and estate planning. A summary of these opportunities are listed below. First, Invest in securities that have tax-exempt earnings like muni bonds. Second, replace a portion of ordinary investment income with capital gains by investing in growth stocks and mutual funds, growth mutual funds. Three, select stocks and mutual funds that require a low level of portfolio turnover that minimize capital gain liability. Four, take advantage of gift splitting and 5-year forward funding to contribute $160,000 to each grandchild's 529 plan to reduce estate tax exposure. Maximize IRA contributions of $7,000 for both of you. Take advantage of qualified charitable distribution to reduce tax impact of RMD, required minimum distribution, by doing a direct transfer from John's 401k to an IRA and distributing from the IRA to qualified charities after John attains age 72. Avoid estate tax liability from life insurance proceeds by creating and moving John's life insurance policy to an irrevocable trust with spouse and children as beneficiaries. Children can be given crummy powers to qualify for annual gift tax exemption with premium contributions of $16,000 per child. Summary of retirement planning documents. A retirement plan analysis was done for the 401k and potential IRA investments and is attached here. Current situation. Our retirement analysis confirms your own assessment that there is no concern in fully satisfying financial needs during your current retirement phase. You can grow your 401k and 403b retirement assets tax-free by either keeping them in the existing accounts or do a direct transfer to a rollover IRA. A direct transfer will avoid the 20% withholding by the 401k plan. 401k assets will be safe from creditor action while an IRA will provide more investment options. The benefit of doing a direct transfer into an IRA is the potential for John to make a qualified charitable distribution up to a maximum of $100,000 per year when he turns age 72. This will reduce John's tax exposure from the required minimum distribution. We understand that you're considering a transfer of 401k assets to your children tax-free after John's passing. We recommend placing the 401k assets into a qualified terminal interest property, QTIP trust, and name the children as the beneficiary of the trust and Mary as the trustee while she's alive. This will reduce exposure to potential estate taxes should the total assets grow to a level beyond the combined exemption equivalent amount of $14.12 million. Summary of estate planning. Current situation. There are currently no essential estate planning documents to ensure that all financial assets will be properly handled if either or both of you become incapacitated. Although you have documented your intentions to pass your assets upon death through your will, there will be at least $9.3 million in assets that will pass through probate upon John's passing. And this will result in loss of time as significant administration cost when the probate process is triggered. That's estimated at $250,000. There are also no provisions for the children to get immediate access to funds to pay for administration and funeral expenses at the passing of the last surviving spouse. There is a high probability for significant estate tax liability as the current assets grow beyond the combined lifetime exemption equivalent amount of just over $24 million during your retirement phase. And this growth is expected based on your willingness to take on risk with the investment portfolio. Life insurance proceeds upon John's passing will be included in his estate and be subject to estate tax if the total value exceeds the exemption amount. The total value of the estate exceeds the exemption amount. So the following are our recommendations to address these observations of the current situation. First, create powers of attorney and healthcare proxies for both of you, John and Mary, to ensure that there is a smooth transition of control over assets in the event that you're incapacitated. This is very time sensitive. Minimize probate exposure by either creating an irrevocable trust and transferring all probate assets into the trust, or change asset ownership to ensure they are passed through law and not through probate. Third, create a payable on death for bank accounts with one or more children assigned to the account to ensure they are having access to the funds to pay for time-sensitive administration and funeral expenses at death. In the event the assets in the bank do not cover all of these immediate liabilities, transfer on death option on the brokerage account is also a possibility. Fourth, strategies to help reduce this exposure through carefully planned trust. Reduce the estate tax exposure through carefully planned trusts, bypass trust, grantor retained annuity trust, or qualified terminal interest property trust could all be considered and implemented at the appropriate time as the asset values grow over the future years. Fifth, create an irrevocable life insurance trust and move John's insurance policy to the trust to prevent the life insurance proceeds from being included in the estate. In addition, crummy powers granted to children in the life insurance trust, as they are the beneficiaries, will allow a $16,000 gift tax annual exemption for the premium payment for each one of you. And then in terms of implementation, we would recommend implementing the powers of attorney and healthcare proxies as soon as practical. It's also recommended that you see an attorney within the next several days, since this is your highest priority initiative in the financial planning process. We also recommend to create the irrevocable trust, life insurance trust, and transfer we recommend creating an irrevocable trust and transfer all probate assets into the trust with primary and secondary trust beneficiaries defined. In the overall action plan, your financial position is strong with very limited liabilities and significant positive net worth. Congratulations on attaining this level of financial health. Your cash flow position is also strong. This will ensure a sustained, strong, positive net worth. However, based on your goals and our analysis, we have identified a few specific actions to be implemented across all areas of the financial plan. First, a full set of powers of attorneys and healthcare proxies needs to be completed as soon as practical with an estate planning attorney to ensure a smooth transition of oversight responsibilities of your financial affairs in the event of incapacity. Implement a payable on death for the bank accounts to ensure adequate funds for children to pay for administrative and funeral expenses in the event of an unexpected passing. Create an irrevocable life insurance trust and transfer John's life insurance to the trust to eliminate potential estate tax exposure to death benefits. This needs to be done early since it only escapes estate tax exposure if John outlives the transfer by at least 3 years. If the estate value grows over time, it will be necessary to consider additional trust initiatives to reduce or eliminate the estate tax exposure. Third, increase coverage on the umbrella policy to at least $10 million, preferably $12.5 million, and increase homeowners insurance coverage to at least $620,000 to fully cover your exposure. Increase coverage of the personal property to specifically include the vintage stamp within the coverage. 4, based on your preference to have long-term care insurance, an LTC policy can be established with an elimination period of 1 year and a coverage period of 3 years. An emergency liquid reserve of $120,000 can be set aside to help pay for coverage during the elimination period. 5, create a diversified portfolio with a low asset turnover that includes investments in tax-exempt mutual funds within the fixed income portfolio. A bias towards growth-oriented investments in the non-qualified investments and towards income orientation in the tax-deferred qualified portfolio will reduce tax exposure to the high marginal tax rate. Thank you very much for your time.